All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here talking about real music in real time for real people, just like you right there and just like me right here. So, Journey releases this new song, The Way We Used to Be, right? It's out there and you can listen to it. It's on Spotify, it's on YouTube. They've even done an animated video for the song, which I'm going to do a separate video about. So, I want to separate those two topics out. Now, the debate, which again reignites on Facebook, on Twitter, on the usual places. Steve Perry versus Arnel Pineda. Journey will never be Journey without Steve Perry. And of course, you know, the old school fans come back with, well, Journey was Journey before Steve Perry. And then the comeback typically is, well, they weren't really anything until Perry joined the band. That's debatable. They weren't selling a lot of records, but they were selling a lot of concert tickets. And that's truth. You can see videos of when they tried to get Robert Fleischman to be in the band. You can see other videos with Greg Raleigh being the only singer in the group. And you can see a very large crowd of people in attendance. Typically, Journey would be in a festival kind of setup where they would have other bands. Journey would be a headliner or Journey would be on the bill. Journey may have become a jam band. We don't know long term if this had continued, but their manager wanted them to be on the radio. Hence, they got Steve Perry into the band. And yes, the rest is history. Nobody's going to deny that Steve Perry changed history by joining Journey. But let's fast forward to 1998 once again, where Perry decided that he didn't want to be in this band anymore. I mean, if Perry wanted to be in, he would have given those guys something more substantive than, you guys are just going to have to wait and don't fracture the stone. And look, the stone, let's just be honest about Steve Perry, and I like Steve Perry, but the stone was there before Perry got there. Now, when Perry got there, there was a chemistry, there was something special, but you could also blame, if that's the right word, Jonathan Cain for some of that chemistry. You could pin that on him because it was Perry, Cain, and Sean. Those guys were working really well together. And they were writing really great songs, and they were bouncing ideas off one another. And they came up with the most downloaded song in history. It's called Don't Stop Believin'. You may have heard of it. Now, let me fast forward again. So here we are in the year 2021, right? And 1998 is 23 years ago, folks. And we've had Steve Augeri, who did a wonderful job as a singer, burned his voice out. The catalog is brutal to sing every night. He literally was working as a manager at the Gap when he got the phone call. That's a true story. It's been out there on VH1. I don't think vocally and maybe psychologically he was prepared for what was about to happen to him. But in those early years, first couple of years, he was fantastic. Then comes Jeff Scott Soto to save the day for 11 months, one of the finest melodic rock singers in the industry, and one of the best rock and roll frontmen that you will ever see on stage. Still looks terrific, still sounds terrific even today. If he had joined and stayed, by the way, we still don't know the exact reason why he got fired, but most likely it was because he wasn't in the traditional, at that point you had Perry and Augeri, and then, see, the names even sound the same. And then you have Soto, right? And Soto, and I've done this in other videos where I just said he's not the traditional tenor, but he does have a full range. He wouldn't be singing in Trans-Siberian Orchestra if he couldn't sing, all right? And he's in another group called Wet. You might have heard of them. Of course, he has a solo career going on, and he works very hard, and maybe he was too much of a worker bee for everybody. Who knows? So then we get to Arnel, and we know about Arnel being discovered on YouTube. It's a rags to riches story. It's an amazing story, and even if you don't like Arnel as a singer, you have to love this underdog story where somebody literally living on the streets in the Philippines and is now singing for one of the world's greatest rock bands. So with that knowledge in the year 2021, I find it really odd that people still are going on to social media. But then again, I've faced some of this stuff, so I understand. People say, well, it's really not Journey. And they're speaking to Journey. Like Journey is monitoring the page. And I don't know who it is, if it's just some administrator, if it's Neil Sean, if it's somebody's wife doing it, I don't know. But it's just kind of sad that you read these comments and you're like, they just put out a song. This is pretty cool that they released music. I mean, most bands at this stage, they're just living off their old catalog. And by the way, most of the casual Perry fans would rather have them just live off their catalog. A lot of those Perry fans, by the way, did not run out to the store to buy the Traces album by Perry when that came out. Most of those fans were just listening to their Journey Greatest Hits CD. I get it. All right, Steve Perry was the best. He is no longer the same vocalist he once was. Some people say, well, I'll take Steve Perry at 50% over Arnel at 100%. Here's the thing. This is a pretty strenuous catalog to sing every night. And I'm pretty sure Steve Perry doesn't want to do it. All right. He doesn't want to do it anymore. And I don't blame him for that. I mean, I think Arnel is under a tremendous amount of pressure to deliver these songs every night. And for quite some time now, because he is the longest tenured vocalist the band has had, he's been delivering for the most part. You know, everybody has an off night. I know there are people that don't like his inflection or his phrasing. There are things that he does that the fans of Perry get angry about, like he just did what? When Perry would have done this, Arnel did that, and he's trying to make the song his own. He's putting too much emphasis on this one note. I get those criticisms, people, but Steve Perry's not coming back to Journey, so that's a moot point. So why make a comment about it? It's almost like saying, well, I know this can never happen, but I'm still going to make this comment anyway, just because I want to make my feelings known. And I get it. It's a free country. I just don't think it's productive. We need more classic rock. We need bands who are going to continue to create music. And apparently Journey has written like 26 songs. I don't know if they're all going to come out on this album, but they've written 26 songs. And there are people that have had kind of a so-so reaction to this first single. I can tell you that as far as the guitar work on this track, the vocals, the keyboards, this is all a pretty decent song. This is not, the best song Journey's ever done, but it's certainly a high caliber of songwriting and production. And again, if you're a traditional Journey fan and you're expecting Stone in Love, okay, this is not that. Now, will there be other tracks that might have a Stone in Love vibe? We don't know. I think we need to not pass judgment on the whole thing until we hear, the entire album. As far as the Arnel versus Perry debate, it will never end. It will continue. So long as there are people alive who remember Steve Perry, who love Steve Perry, and even after, even after those people are gone, there'll be more generations that discover Steve Perry and go, hey, this guy's the best. And we all know that. There's no replacing Steve Perry. The only thing you can do is help people cope with the fact that Steve Perry isn't there. Some people, though, don't want to cope with it. Some people just want to complain about it. And I get that. But again, imagine being Arnel and reading this stuff and hearing this stuff. It's really got to suck for him, So anyway, that's one video. I will be doing another video on the animated video, which, full disclosure, I did videos about why Journey should do an animated video, and I'm going to take credit and talk about that in a little bit.